We're seeing like these young guys, like 22, 23, who are literally have the testosterone levels of an 80-year-old man. You know, diet, lifestyle, exercise, sleep, all of these things can have an impact. When you dial in all of these different biomarkers with the supplements, you're just creating like a superhuman. How can I achieve a high level of testosterone naturally without injecting myself every day?
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Make Men Great Again podcast. I've got a very special guest here with me today, Mr. Lucas. How do I say your last name, Lucas?
Just say Aoun.
Owen, Lucas Owen. He is Australia's #1 biohacker. For some of you may or may not know what biohacking is, he's going to go through that today, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm super excited because, as we were just chatting off camera, this is something that I'm really into, but obviously you'll have a world of knowledge more than mine. And I'm keen to break down for people how we can increase focus, increase energy, maybe overcome burnout, increase testosterone. These are all your kind of wheelhouse. So welcome to the Make Men Great Again podcast, Lucas.
It's great to be here, Scott. This is a phenomenal setup you got
Thank you
here.
very much. Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to today's chat.
Awesome. First up, what is biohacking for people? Maybe these guys are following, online. You've got your Hubermans, your Breckers. These are the kind of guys overseas. And you're really, from what I can tell, the #1 person in Australia. Obviously, you've been featured in some huge podcasts, much bigger than ours. And I think I saw you also, I was just looking on your Instagram, Biohacking Summit, speaking on a stage in a guest panel. So these are some pretty amazing experiences, and also, what do you call them? Not accreditations, but like, you know what I'm saying. Just privileges or like, obviously for you to be accepting into those things, you're not just a run-of-the-mill person who's watched or done a Gary Brecker course or something like that, who's watched someone else's reels. What's your background in this? And tell us a bit about what is biohacking? Why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah, so this term biohacking, Scott, really just basically means like optimizing your lifestyle to maximize your health.
Gotcha.
So basically it's what can we do from a nutrition perspective, exercise standpoint? How do we optimize our sleep? How do we navigate the world of supplementation to really max out our performance in every aspect of our lifestyle. So really that term, I found that really interesting when I was a semi-professional soccer player. Yeah. So my goal, Scott, was always to become like a, professional soccer player. I wanted to play overseas, English Premier League, playing for Chelsea.
Love it.
And then I got involved in my dad's a pharmacist. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time working in the pharmacy from a very young age. Started learning about different vitamins and supplements, and I'm like, man,
what's this pill do?
A lot of self-experimentation.
I must confess, I did some self-experimentation also when I was younger.
Yeah, so part of that journey has really been like, it's one thing to like talk the talk, but then another thing to actually walk the walk, which is what I really pride myself on is like when I talk about things like, how does a man max out his testosterone levels as high as possible? Like I have been there, done that. Yeah. And I've done that and I've achieved that for thousands of men around the world.
So let's quick caveat, forget the biohacking for a second. Let's dive straight into testosterone. Obviously we're called the Make Men Great Again, so podcast. So we talk about all sorts of men's topics. So testosterone is a big topic, not just from like the biohacking space at the moment, but really is a kind of like a global epidemic in regards to mental health, in regards to finding partners. We've got people you're probably going to know the statistics, so I'll ask you instead of messing it up myself, but there's been a massive decline in testosterone over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, hasn't it? And then increased, I think, testosterone or estrogen or something for females. What's the go with that?
Well, what I call it, Scott, is I call it a Man-demic, which is like, we're seeing a generational decline in testosterone levels across all age groups. Yeah. So obviously, as you're young, fit and healthy, a young, 21, 22-year-old male should have very high levels of testosterone. But then what happens is it does gradually
naturally especially after around the 40s and things like that.
Correct. But what we're seeing like these young guys, like 22, 23, who are literally have the testosterone levels of an 80-year-old man.
And why? Is there a study or statistics or science around why this is happening?
So there are many different factors that are impacting this. Number one is definitely like environmental factors, things like, plastics, pollution,
Yes.
poor sleep, crappy diets,
higher stress,
terrible lifestyle, man. Like they're just under the pump. They're feeling exactly like you said, stress. They can't recover, bad sleep, like just modern day living.
And then those things obviously lean themselves towards, when we're stressed, maybe reach for some sugar, maybe alcohol, things like this, which again obviously impact the gut. That all of those things impact the brain, and then everything's not optimal. And I think that was your point about the biohacking before, about what is biohacking. Okay, it's just optimizing our body's health. Well, in society right now, it's like everything's leaning towards encouragement, or at least probably not encouragement is not the right word, but it's just like a prison where it's hard not to have that decline. I think fluoride is a big one. Was there a study I saw they did in frogs, and they were giving them a certain amount of fluoride, and the frogs lost their testicles or something? Wasn't that? Is that a real thing?
There was another chemical called atrazine,
yeah,
which is another like pollutant that they use, or some sort of a preservative or something.
Yeah.
And these chemicals, Scott, can make a man become more feminine.
Yeah,
like they can literally have feminizing effects, and they can shrink penises and decrease testicles.
We don't want that.
Which guy wants that? We're supposed to make men great again, not make.
Yeah, we're not going to get that done with small penises, are we? Not that there's anything wrong with that, guys. If you happen to have a smaller than usual member. Anyways, on to the next one. Not awkward at all. Okay, cool. So there's a decline in testosterone. Obviously, you were saying before, this is something that takes 2 seconds to go onto your Instagram, which looks amazing, by the way. And obviously, you've got 60-something thousand people that are following you for this specific advice around, of course, lots of biohacking, but it seems like testosterone is like a bit of a hero topic for your social media.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's an area that I'm like very passionate about, because I don't want to see young men. I don't want to see young men suffering, and I feel like I can relate to that. Even though when I was young, I wasn't like low testosterone, but I saw the guys around me who were like, why are they struggling to get their work done? Like, why are they so lacking motivation? Like, what's going on here? So that's really what like piqued my interest. And I'm like, you know what? You can be a jack of all trades, or you can specialize in one key area. And for me, I was like, who the hell is talking about?
Well, like I honestly, a friend of mine messaged me and said, hey, do you, I want to increase my testosterone. I don't want to go and do what HGH or whatever. TRT is in a lot of my mates. I'm late 30s, but they're mostly early 40s, mid 40s. So they're kind of going through that phase where they're all like 6'5" strong guys, but they're, very busy with business and work and families and things like that. So like, oh, maybe I could, everyone's got one mate or two mates that are doing it and going, I feel amazing. So they're like, oh, I don't want to go. I'm not sure if I want to go the TRT route. And he sent me a message, have you heard of this Fedosia Agrestis and this Tonga Ali? And I think I might have just typed it into Instagram, and I think that's how I came across you, just following maybe, or maybe I don't know, something like that. But so you tapped on something before that I don't think a lot of people really understand about testosterone. Testosterone isn't just about having a big penis. It's not just about having good sex drive. It's not even just about growing muscles. But you touched on something that even I didn't really realize until more recently, after following your content as well, is the motivation, the positive mental attitude, the energy and focus. Talk me through what, if somebody like who's literally watching this podcast right now, like, oh, I want to hear, maybe we've put up a thumbnail saying like, understand what testosterone and whatnot. Like, walk me through what are the signs of low testosterone that most men would be facing, and then what are the signs of healthy testosterone?
So starting out with like the clear-cut signs of a man with low testosterone, number one is going to be lack of energy.
Yeah.
So lack of general energy, vitality. They're going to have like low levels of confidence. They're going to have poor sex drive. They're not waking up with a morning wood. They're feeling like after they hit a big workout, they feel like next day they're completely smashed. There's no chance they could train again because they're feeling just completely burnt
I feel
out.
I feel like I'm right now. I said off camera, we're gonna here's some themes I want to talk about. But using me as a bit of a subject, I'm going to get a bit of a free coaching session here potentially, here, guys.
Well, part of that, part of the whole premise and idea around like maximizing testosterone without going onto TRT was the reason why we developed trtfree.com. That was like my entire protocol, and
it's exactly for like my mates, essentially, the guys that may not be in their 40s but are wondering, hey, better off not to maybe go the drug route.
Yeah. And how can I do it? How can I achieve a high level of testosterone naturally without injecting myself every day?
Yeah.
So part of that, if we look at the, like to follow up with what you asked before, I mean, a guy with healthy levels of testosterone, generally speaking, they wake up, they have, good energy, good vitality. They feel very confident, resilient, they feel like they can just crush life. They can smash their to-do list. Like, and a lot of these effects are like mental, man.
Yeah.
These are the mental benefits that I'm like, we all want that, right?
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. I had no idea that this was very strongly linked to the testosterone levels.
So part of that as well there is like I think a lot of guys, like you said before, they think that testosterone can't really be like tweaked or modified. Yeah. And so I think what I want to emphasize to those that are listening in is if you are a guy who feels like you have low testosterone, do yourself a favor and book in for a blood test.
Yeah.
Like you can look at these signs and symptoms, but do a blood test that's objective data. Like
just where do they get this? You can do it online, right? It's not that expensive, couple $100.
Yeah, couple $100. Places like imedical.com.au, iscreen.com.au without a doctor. Like I know there's going to be some listeners here that are like, my doctor won't won't give me a referral for a blood test, but it's like, all right, don't do it through your doctor. Do it privately. You don't need any doctor.
Yeah, okay. And I know that because I was literally just speaking to my mate that did the Tonga Ali. I said, how did you go with it? And he said, well, I did blood tests, but then I realized afterwards that I didn't get the one that I needed to get. So
free testosterone? Was that the one he was saying he didn't get?
I think so. So for instance, and this is not a paid promotion, guys, but is there someone like on your website or somewhere else where you would have like a list of what markers people need to get, or where would they? Can you Google it? Like, what's the best way if somebody wanted to, like, they're relating to what you're saying right now? They go, oh man, fuck, I do what I need to do, but I don't want to do it every day. Every day I wake up and it feels like a freaking grind. I can't even work out because I'm exhausted and it's just every day is tough. I haven't had a boner in weeks, whatever it may be. Like what's the best way for them to evaluate that? Obviously go into the medical thing, but it can be complicated sometimes to pick which one. So, yeah.
So the blood testing selection, I've actually developed like a specific blood test panel.
Okay.
So that's EGH. If they search that on iMedical, that's the list that I think is necessary for most men to get.
So EGH is the name of the list.
Is the name of the panel,
Oh, okay, gotcha. And a panel is a series of different markers.
There's about maybe 19 different biomarkers on there.
Okay.
Testosterone's one of them. Estrogen's another one.
Yeah.
Cortisol's another one.
Yeah.
Prolactin, vitamin B12, these B vitamins, zinc. All of these are what I personally think are crucial to be assessed at least once or twice a year.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really interesting. So, okay. Like everything you said before, like maybe we'll dive into that. I told you off cam that I had like kind of really burnt out, right? I think there's a mental amount of that, like when you're doing work that's not aligned and you're when your body's in like a resistance and maybe you're off the path, there's a spiritual and mental part of it. But the physical impact of being in a state of resistance instead of a state of flow, obviously it puts you in stress, and stress impacts everything, doesn't it? So my question to you is, last time I was like, I mean, there was times where I was that burnt out I couldn't walk around the block. Like I couldn't walk 100 meters. That's how, if I had a coffee, like I physically couldn't function. I was having a bunch of adaptogens and a bunch of stuff, and I would have to basically just not train, do no work, do very light walking and then have a bunch of like, you know, when it might be Astra 8 and a bunch
ginseng.
of ginseng and ashwagandha and a bunch of all of these other things to kind of repair like my nervous system. And then basically like for years, every 3 months I would go through that same 3 to 6 months. I go through that same thing of just burning out. It got really bad. And then over the last 12 months, as I said, I've reduced a lot of stress. I shut down my business and have had a lot less stress there. I did a 10-week detox with a lady and got rid of a bunch of parasites. We did colon cleanses. I mean, every type of cleanse that you could do, and that's made a huge impact for sure. Like now, like before, as I said, as you were saying, I would train one day, next day I would be fucked. Like I couldn't, not like sore. Not sore muscle, not DOMS.
More like mentally or like...
Mentally, I couldn't get out of bed until after. And I'm normally like, I'm a morning person. So I wake up 5, 6 o'clock for my entire life. And I'll be waking up and I can't get out of bed before 9. Like I'm exhausted. On those days, if I trained, I couldn't train for a long time. And it's taken me, like I said, 18 months of everything from spiritual ceremonies like ayahuasca and the toad to the 10-week thing, reducing stress, moving out and getting a lot more sunlight. And we bought a water machine, like a filtered water. Like I've done all of that was my journey into biohacking because it wasn't like, oh, that's nice, I want to increase my testosterone. It was like, I'm dying. I'm running a business and I can't even show it to my client calls right now. So, you know, walk me through, in your opinion, because I'm sure there's other people out there, maybe they relate to my story or maybe it might not be quite as extreme, but in your opinion, where should somebody start? Because I feel like I went round and round and I did everything, whereas I'm sitting here now and I know that if it happened again, I kind of have a much better idea of what things I would be doing rather than just testing and trialing a million different things. And in that case, my cupboard at home is full of a million different supplements that I saw an ad on or something and thought, maybe that'll help. So in your opinion, a couple of questions. Number one, what do you feel should a person do in that situation? In kind of what order? And if we were going to go into some sort of like supplementation, so what should they do from just a general physical perspective? Like maybe they should reduce stress, maybe they should go out, like should they be training, should they not be training, and what supplementation, so that people aren't doing all the guesswork, what should they do if they've got low energy, they're burning out, that particular problem?
Yeah, so let's say I was faced with this particular, I mean, I've dealt with clients that are like pretty much identical to your scenario where they're like,
so you also coach people as well, dudes?
All right. Hope you're enjoying the podcast thus far. Just want to take a moment of your time to ask that in exchange for this amazing value and guests and hopefully some entertainment too, if you guys have liked it so far and you want to see more, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. At the end of the day, you can continue just to watch and all those type of things, but it does actually have an enormous impact on the level and quality of guests that I can have. And that just means better interviews for you guys. And it also means more impact in the world. The more men that can come across this channel and see this information and see the types of topics, the things that we're talking about, that can change another man's life. So if you've got value, pass it on. Pass on that value by hitting the subscribe button. With that said, guys, let's get back to the episode. Bye for now.
Yeah, I do online coaching as well.
Oh, cool.
So I assist men, you know, mostly between 20 and 55 years of age, like just in a very similar boat as you. Like they've either pushed really hard and they've hit a point of complete burnout and they're like, what do I do? Like, I don't recommend taking like the shotgun approach, which is like, just grab whatever you...
Because usually people that I've noticed, the people that burn out, these are not lazy people.
No.
These are people like, for me, I'm used to being I've done podium on triathlete. I've been a triathlete. I've climbed mountains and run marathons, and here I am, I can't walk 100 meters. And so in your head, you're thinking, like, should I exercise is healthy? But hold on a second, when I exercise, I'm fucked.
Well, in that situation, what I'd be doing is like taking a very specific objective measurement or assessment of your biology. So like my brand, Boost Your Biology, is based upon that premises, which is like, let's do some blood work. Let's
always start with the blood work and see what's going on.
Yeah, I've got a specific panel, like I said before, but I've also got like a very extensive like screening form where I analyze a person's, diet, lifestyle, exercise, sleep, all of that
home
stuff.
environment, everything.
Yeah, because all of these things can have an impact. Like things like mold exposure, things like pollution,
heavy metals,
like the type of water that you drink. Like you said before, if you're not filtering out, if you are in Australia and you're drinking tap water,
what are you doing, guys? This is 2024. Have you not been on social media for the last 12 months and seen that it's poisoning you?
We're trying to make men great again. So like avoid drinking these estrogenic, chemicals in our, I call it basically chemical soup.
Up until just recently, most people thought this was like crazy talk.
When it was up until Dr. Andrew Huberman was on the scene. Because
once you've got like a few certificates and you've got some respect, like I've been saying this for years, and everyone's called me a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like, what, why would they put something in the water? I'm like, that's not good for you. And I'm like, well, either it depends which way you want to go. Either it's just good business and they're getting rid of chemicals and it's a great way to get rid of waste. There's that option. Or there's the more conspiracy theory option, which is that maybe you can comment on this, but some say that the fluoride in the water can calcify the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is usually the gland in the brain that is identified with having higher consciousness, types of thoughts, experiences, connection to self, or higher things. So it's a form of control in a sense.
Well, if you look at the function, like a biological function of the pineal gland, it's literally like it's there to secrete melatonin.
Yes.
And melatonin is our master sleep hormone.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I think most people should be avoiding fluoride extra, what I mean by fluoride is like extra ingestion of fluoride, not like you're going to get trace amounts in.
If you brush your teeth,
like,
maybe you don't have to use the filtered water for that, potentially, if you're not swallowing it. But even on the toothpaste, it says do not swallow in fluoride toothpaste, or if you do, call the doctor.
Exactly.
What are we doing putting this on our teeth every day?
So bad. But yeah, like looking at the different, what I call is like silent assassins. These are like things in our environment that are like slowly killing us, like making us become weaker humans, more obedient. We're creating more like zombies in the world that are like just robotic, working corporate. Nothing.
We're looking straight at the city. Fuck you guys. No, everyone's important. But it's that coupled with then obviously giving people social media, and then you actually have like you've got a zombie, and then you've got like a zombie focus machine, which I'm like, put my hand up. I'm sure we all are like glued to our phones, especially if you're running an online business and things like that. But it's kind of scary when you really take a step back and you really look at it and you go, wow, there's this decline in testosterone. There's decline in relationships. There's a decline in people's health, and there's an increase in obesity. There's an increase in depression. There's an increase in suicide. There's an increase. It's like, wow, maybe there's a correlation here.
And even fertility as well. There's some estimates that in like 35 years from now, most men in the Western world will be infertile, which is just scary, man. Like you think about those statistics are just wild.
Well, some, again, from a conspiracy angle, might say that that's, intentional, and the way that the world's going with all of their, like the WHO and whoever these guys are, I can't remember what the name. There's some new world orders that they're doing that's like they're talking about eating ants and things like that in the future. What's up with that?
Actually, funny you mention that.
Though, there's a whole like 2020. There's a whole 30-year plan of like. Our food system, isn't there? Have you heard that?
I've as a biohacker, I have actually experimented with our roasted crickets. And I enjoyed those. They actually tasted amazing.
Okay, there you go. How much protein's in them? What's the macronutrient breakdown?
It's an amazing. It's better than steak.
There you go.
From a protein perspective, it's better
You just have to eat a lot of them.
I should have brought some snacks for us.
Well, I did have a primal guy come to my place and he bought bull's testicles. And we ate bull's testicles after the podcast, and a raw liver and frozen testicles.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Only the testosterone guy says awesome. My wife's like, you're nuts.
You are nuts. You're eating nuts.
Literally.
Oh, man. Nah, there's definitely – what I want to emphasize is there's hope for men. Like we're at a critical time right now. We want men to like number one – recognize and admit that this is actually a problem.
Yes, good
Number
start.
two is what can be done.
Yeah.
What can be done is not Google. Do not do this.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that's why I wanted to ask you, because that's what I did, and I'm a pretty I actually know a little bit about stuff, but it's just one of those things where, oh man, the amount of hundreds of dollars that I spent on supplements that did nothing because I probably just were the wrong ones because I hadn't gone and done the biomarkers thing. So. Let's really talk about the supplements for a second. I told you I downloaded your course as I was doing some research for this, the new TRT free course thing, which looked awesome. I'm about a quarter of the way through, but I got the thiamine. Is it from Thiamax?
Yeah,
what it is?
yeah. So you got the Thiamax from Objective Nutrients.
That one, and I also got the methylated because somebody told me that I wasn't, potentially with some of the issues that I was having, that maybe I wasn't methylating the foods properly, and that's why I wasn't absorbing nutrients, things like that. I did after I got sick a few months ago, I had the IV people come to my house, and they put everything. They said, you're so dehydrated. I sat next to my wife. I did it 20 minutes after she started, and I finished before her.
Wow. So
it was basically saying that the less resistance that's in your bloodstream shows how dehydrated you were. I did another one the week after, but I didn't feel any difference from them. Like energy-wise. If anything, it made me feel tired because it had magnesium in it.
Well, this is where, this is exactly where it comes back to taking a sniper rifle approach, because what if you didn't need more magnesium and you were getting enough through supplements or food?
Yeah.
I personally don't take magnesium. Guess why? It makes me fatigued.
Yeah.
So I don't even take it. So it's
I've noticed at nighttime I love it because that helps me sleep. But if I have it in the morning, I'm exhausted.
Tired. You need more caffeine, forget it. No.
Yeah.
I don't go there. There's a lot of supplements with have documented benefits personally that I don't take. Vitamin D, it's important, of course, but
if you get lots of sunlight, I don't take it anymore.
Exactly. I'd rather go outside, get the sun, eat the sun.
Yeah. So, okay. So what are some, so if we go back to I tend to jump around a bit, sorry guys. If we go back to the original question around the burnout, what would you say the key core things? Obviously step one, if we were to lay a bit of a thing out for people, step one obviously is always going to be get some blood work done so that you can do a sniper rather than a machine gun just shooting at random stuff.
Yeah, so my premise is if you really want to take things to the next level and do state-of-the-art level of biohacking, it's do a blood test, okay, and you get that done first thing in the morning, fasted. Sleep normally the night before, eat normally the night before, do what you need to do. Don't have sex before the blood test, or don't drink any water.
Or don't jerk off. Don't drain the main vein. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm sure that's going to affect you.
I'll be able to tell on the blood test. I'll be able to see prolactin will be through the roof. Yeah. When prolactin's through the roof, I'm like, bro, did you...
you just did one in the toilet, didn't you? You're a bit nervous, weren't you?
Or was it a hot nurse serving you or something?
Yeah.
So I think the key point here is that when we're looking at these factors, secondly, I'd say after getting the blood work done, then have someone like myself analyze the blood work and tell you exactly what you need for your biology. Because what I recommend for you won't be the exact same for another person. It's going to be... specific to you.
I'm with you. So even if I might have the same symptoms as your client James, let's say, James might have different reasons why.
Yeah. So for example, you might be fatigued and destroyed after a workout because maybe it's your thyroid.
Gotcha.
Whereas with James, maybe he actually has maybe you have high testosterone, and James has low testosterone, or perhaps James has normal testosterone, but he's fatigued, but it's not related to testosterone. It's related to thyroid.
Yeah.
Or it's related to low iron, or it's related to low vitamin B12.
Yeah.
So how are you ever going to, as just an average man, how are you ever going to figure this out by yourself?
And that's why I think sometimes people say, oh, supplements are bullshit. But you got to have the right supplements. And even going back to that brand, again, it's not a paid promotion, but I liked how in your course, you said, get these brands because they've been third-party tested. Yeah. Because so many supplements on the market, especially American supplements, that they only have to prove what's in it after they've been audited or whatever, right? So these particular brands, which I had heard about that Thiamax brand before, Objective Nutrients, like I said before, I noticed an instant increase. I actually forgot that I'd had it. I had the methylated B complex, and I had the Thiamex, which is what the vitamin B1 or something,
B1,
right?
Supercharged B1.
But it's like the highest quality is the point that I'm making here. Not every supplement is, even if it's the same vitamin, they're not all created equal.
You will
right?
not be able to find Thiamex on the shelf in Australia.
It's very hard to get. I can't remember where I found it, but long story short, suddenly, and I've had a lot of issues. I'm ADHD. I've had a lot of issues with focus and just getting fucking anything done. Like, so I'm like 4 or 5 hours into doing something. I'm like, I've been working all morning. I haven't stopped. I've been focused. My wife's like, she thinks I'm the best husband in the world. I've done this thing for my wife. I did this thing for my baby. I've did a bunch of work. I made a bunch of I'm like, what's going on? And I was like, I had that thing this morning. I'm like, fuck me.
That's bad.
Maybe it's placebo. Next day I did it again. I'm like, I forgot that I had it, and I just wound up. I was so focused is the right word. I was so focused and present with what I was doing and moving forward that I didn't realize. And this happened 3 days in a row where I forgot each time and just wound up 4 or 5 hours into being extremely productive. And I said to my wife, this is what regular people feel like. Like I'm in a regular functioning, because I'm very mentally strong, and I have a lot of very powerful practices that I've learned and done. I've done a lot of spiritual development, a lot of mental development, and I'm stubborn motherfucking Capricorn. So, but that said, when you've got low energy, you can push through. That's what I used to do. Just always push through. That's what, this is what it takes to be successful. That was the mindset. But over time, my base energy just kept dropping until that mental, I couldn't overpower the physical with the mental anymore. So to have that feeling of like being able to focus, being able to get something done without having to, and I think that's the reason I'm sharing this is because I think that to me was the first time where I understood what you said at the start of the podcast of like, oh yeah, you motivate and get things done. Like I'm very passionate about things. All right, guys, and we're back. We had a little technical issue there, but don't worry, had some spare batteries. Lucas has been a very kind guest, and he's not judging me. And we're going to get straight back into it. So I think what we were talking about, Lucas, was we were specifically talking about my experience with having the right supplement. Clearly that, the vitamin D did nothing. A few of the other things didn't like that much. Like I was sharing with you how noticeable it was for me, someone with ADHD, someone who has had some chronic fatigue and some burnout over time, how impactful it was. And I found myself just working 4 or 5 hours and going, wow, I cannot believe how productive. Like I was like a little giddy boy, how productive that I'd been. I was just like, this is what everyone like. This is what it feels like to be a normal human. I seriously almost cried. That's how impactful that I think that it can be when you've got that right vitality. And I think there's a lot of men that will be watching this. And like, I just put up a post this morning on Instagram, like a lot of men, we just soldier on. That's like, and beautiful, beautiful men that you've got that in your heart that you soldier on for yourself or your partner or your kids or whoever it is. But what I would love to get them, and what it seems like from when I watch your content is that, and you said it in these exact words, you don't have to. And there are better ways to go about it. So, okay, so step one was to do a test, right? Step two, if you can, best to get someone who's a professional to do a consult and at least give you some direction.
Yeah, the reason for that is because your regular doctor or GP, the way they perceive your blood test results,
it's useless. Yeah,
they just skim through it, man.
They're not, and this is what you said before. They're not experts on this. Like this is something that you they're called general practitioners. Correct. That's what GP stands for.
Yeah, correct.
General.
And I'm a qualified naturopath. Like we study this inside out. Yeah. Plus, I've done my own time researching this, and I know what where your vitamin B12 should be, where your cortisol should be, where your thyroid should be, and I've seen what happens when you dial in all of these different biomarkers with the supplements. You're just creating like a superhuman, basically.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't know if it was just like me being normal and there's another level, but that felt like superhuman to me just to get some things done. So if people are watching this and they're stressed and they're struggling they're doing the bare minimum, right? They're soldiering on, that feeling of like, I'm doing what I have to do, but nothing more. That's what I relate to. And yeah, I see. I like even it's noticeable that even online, like you're pumping out shit tons of content. I'm like, man, this guy, I believe him. I'm like struggling to put a couple of things together, and there's just content after content after content and podcast after podcast. I'm like, okay, cool. He must be doing something right. So you have a background in this. Walk me through like what studies.
So I completed a year and a half of exercise science, and then also like a 4-year naturopathy degree. So studied that like full time. Completed all the assignments before the lecturers even handed them out. So I was even towards the end joking that I'd mark my own assignments.
So you just loved it.
Just loved it, devoured it. Was mentoring, tutoring other students because I'm like, this is so easy. How do you not know the answer? Yeah. So I just loved it, man. For me, I was already living and breathing that sort of stuff. So it's like
from your soccer, obviously there's already a passion towards health and fitness.
Like I was playing soccer, so it's like already I had to be dialed in. Yeah. I sacrificed a lot. I didn't go out,
especially if you want to go to like a a high level
EPL level. Yeah, I mean, of course. But then when I went overseas,
where did you get to? Side caveat.
Well, I represented Melbourne in Budapest, in Hungary.
Wow.
And so I played in a tournament over there in under 17s, and I was when I arrived there, I'm like, geez, these guys are freaking good. Like we thought we were good. Their technicality, like their level of skill is it's just another level. And I'm like, am I willing to sacrifice my education?
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Like you're realizing it's not that you don't believe in yourself. You think I could do this, but now I'm looking at what it's going to take, and I'm realizing, okay, I could go this route or I could go that route. I know I can do it, but how bad do you want it? Because you have to want it. You have to sacrifice a lot. It has to be like living and breathing. So you had that. What age were you there?
18.
So you're like, okay, I've been working at this for the last 10 years, whatever it is, as a youngster. Now I'm faced with the reality. I'm 18. What's my career going to be? And is that when you kind of said, okay, cool, I'll go to uni instead of going and playing, maybe going and playing for some clubs overseas and getting that, working your way up in that.
Exactly right. For me, it's like, okay, now I know that I'm not going to become the best in the best centre back in Europe or whatever. I'm like, what can I pick or what can I select that I know I'm going to be the best at? It's like there aren't many male naturopaths out there. Like there are
That's
some.
True.
There are some there, but it's predominantly a women's only like industries. And I'm like, well, get to study amongst a lot of other girls. Not bad.
Have a look at him. Good choice. Yeah.
And then also I'm like
sneaky.
And then I'm like, okay, no one's really educating on how these supplements and herbs work. And I'm like the mechanism of action guy who loves explaining. I'm like the engineer of supplements. Like people want to understand how is this working and why is it working. They don't want to.
And who's it for and what's it for?
And how to dose it. Best time of the day to use it. There's shit all information out there online. So
what brands to get, what brands not to get.
Yeah. So I'm like, I knew for a fact that I knew stuff that people would pay a lot of money to gain access to because we're talking about their health, man.
Yeah.
It's health, wealth, and relationships. The three industries that are like people pay infinite dollars for.
Yeah. Wow. And so, okay, cool. So you did a bunch, you're 27 now, you did a bunch of like learning naturopathy. Yeah, when I think back to it, I think of like Chinese medicine, maybe some males in there, but naturopathy, and just for me and for the listeners, what obviously naturopathy is in the same family as like obviously biohacking and things like that, but what is it if you do it in the summary?
The way I describe naturopathy is like a nutritionist with herbal medicine training. So we have and supplement training. So it's like nutritionist, we understand nutrition very well. We understand
a high level, not just your run of the mill gym person who's going to write you a meal plan.
This was like a 4-year degree, like biochemistry, understanding the ins and outs. Like it's complex degree, but
including like brain, gut function,
everything,
all that jazz, hormones,
like gut health,
nervous system.
If you go to a naturopath, there's without a doubt they're going to look at your poop.
With the girl I was just working with. It was a daily poo check for parasites.
Yeah. Well, it's a good sign that you're like, if your poop is off, like it's a clear sign something's wrong internally, and it needs to be like, I don't know if you've seen the poo chart.
Yeah, I have.
The type 4 Bristol stool chart. So we take our shit seriously.
Yeah, lots of jokes on today's. Yeah, cool. So, and so you did that. That's a whole 4 or 5 years.
4 years full time.
Wow, that's a lot. And then so what? The last 4 or 5 years you've been sharing your wisdom.
So I started my Instagram page on was it second year? Or I think it was second year university, and I would stay back after class developing IG posts, and I would do it for 2-3 hours after class every day. And I'm like, the reason why I was doing that is because I was getting really frustrated in class because things were fucking slow, man. Like things were moving too slow, and I'm like, my output, I could be doing 5x the amount of work that everyone else is doing in this class. This is just too slow. So I'd stay back after uni, and I'd be like, I've got all this leftover energy.
Would you say that you're someone like, I feel like you're the opposite of me? Are you someone who naturally, like, besides obviously you're fit, you look after your health, you're athletic, like you probably haven't abused your body like I have. Have you always been healthy?
I mean, coming from a soccer background, that was how I was. That's
you
how
said
I understood.
You weren't partying and stuff like that.
No, I didn't push my body at all. I didn't go through like your typical 18 to 21 where you just like get wasted every weekend.
Yeah, mine was 14 to 30. a few summer breaks there, but you can see why I had a toll to pay more recently with like a debt to pay to my body in a sense.
Yeah.
So,
but for me, I think like I wasn't enticed by that sort of lifestyle. Like I was very much, I felt like I had things to offer the world that was like unique. I felt like I could bring something new to the table. I didn't want to like be just your average nutritionist talking about eat carrots for vitamin A.
I think it's very boring, a lot of the way that people generally teach, because I think it does. A lot of people do something like a lot of people who get degrees, they don't really know what they want to do, so you just do something. I did that too. I was an electrician. I didn't want to go to uni. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just pick something. You know what I mean? But it sounds like that wasn't the case for you. This is something that like you're passionate about it in school. That was 7 or so years ago. You've been passionate about it every day since, and that passion isn't kind of going anywhere by the looks of things.
My legacy, Scott, is like I've always been into supplements because I love the idea of like being able to formulate. So my legacy mission is to create my own epic supplement range.
Yeah,
and like that is I'm hoping to become like a multi-million-dollar like globally recognized company where it's like this guy has the most badass formulas in the world. Well,
you've got a brand. I mean, brand is always the starting point for everything. And then if you've got the knowledge to back that up, instead of having to partner with, because that's what normal, celebrities and what do, they partner with someone else who's got the knowledge, and then they build something. Someone brings the brand, someone brings the knowledge, and they partner up and they make something. But if you can keep growing the way that you're growing, then that's exciting. Something that just popped into my head I thought was really interesting. Obviously, if we take it away from like supplementation and biohacking, all that stuff, and just get down to the man that sits here before me. Obviously, we're talking about making men great. I would love to know, if it's okay with you, what's your relationship with your father? What's that like? Because naturally, you've not followed in his footsteps, but in a sense, it's kind of a similar route. I'm just curious for my own psychoanalyst of you now, Mr. Aoun.
So I love my dad. We have an amazing relationship.
Yeah.
Like I'm very privileged and grateful for that. He's been very supportive. Probably the hardest thing in my entire life was telling Dad that I no longer want to play soccer. Because
is he you said you're Italian? Your mum, what? He's the
Mum's
Italian?
Italian, Dad's Lebanese.
Gotcha.
Yeah. For him, that was because he was taking me to soccer training. Like he wanted his son to become a professional soccer player. Like that's also his ambition.
Did he love soccer?
He loved it. He loved it. He used to play footy as well. Like he loved it. But for me, it was like, I just said to him, I'm like, the passion's fading.
Yeah.
Like it was, it was hurting me. It was hurting me a lot deep down inside. Even just like
talking. You mean physically or you mean emotionally? Because even now I've noticed your voice just gently just drops a little bit. It's obviously a topic of some importance and careful articulation.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm going into loops of like traumatic, like PTSD moments of when I used to play and just like after soccer, just coming back into the car, feeling upset. And my coach would like always say that I'd like would pinpoint all the negatives. It was all negative. There was no positive reinforcement. It was like,
this is your dad or your coach?
Coach.
Yeah.
It was always like what we could have improved on. You never did a good enough job.
Yeah.
Not being good enough is the core of my existence. Like that's,
If it makes you feel any better, I probably told this on the podcast, so don't jump in the comments and say, he's already said this before. Just, it's not about you right now, right? Tony Robbins went to his event. It was one of the first kind of paid, kind of coaching things I'd ever been to. And I had a lot of, I wasn't always this self-assured as I am now. Some of that's come from healing, some of it's come from age and whatnot. But that was I was at that thing, that 3-day, 4-day weekend, whatever it's called, in Sydney. And I constantly felt exactly what you said. Never felt like I was good enough. Again, maybe my dad and there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But what was so healing was to feel like I was the only person in the world that felt exactly like that. And Tony Robbins gets up on the stage. He goes, all right, everyone, put your hands up if you feel like, you're not good enough is like one of the key things that have just been a narrative that just yanks at your self-worth your entire life. 6,000 people put their hand up. And I almost I was just like, it's one thing to think it. It's one thing to kind of, I don't know it. And this is before social media was talking. This is before everyone was talking about the stuff online as much. He was really the only real person, a few other people. We're going back probably 10 years or something like that. But it was like, fuck me. Every single person feels like they're not enough. Not lovable, not enough. These are the two most common ones. And it can come from our teachers, can come from our parents. But I'm curious, you got it from your coach, but did it sting a little bit more because whether your dad said it or whether you felt it, do you think that was also a part of it or not?
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't your typical like hardcore soccer dad who was like brutal. There were my teammates had dads like that, and I feel sorry for them because I'd like to see what they're like now.
Yeah.
Like they're probably pretty broken. But in saying that, like if you look at, I'm going to shout out my soccer coach, Alan Davidson. He was he played for Socceroos. He was brutal, man. Like he was the toughest coach you could like. He was just
tough as in like, but everybody loved him, or tough as in love hate.
Well, he had a reputation of just being like, he would shout and he would.
Like army style,
army military style.
Yeah.
He was tough, man. Like at that age as well, when you're a 17-year-old,
you're trying to build your confidence in that. You're thinking, can I play soccer? Am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? Especially if you're putting yourself out there. I want to tell you the reason why I said that is because what I just feel when I look at you and when I see what you're doing in the world, I feel like it seems like there is a strong bond with your dad. And whether that's like in fruition that you guys are really close or whether that's just something that's deeper in here and it's unspoken, I'm not sure. But I just find it really interesting. And I think dads in general are such an important part of a child's. I can see what you're doing in the world. And I think I had a guy on a podcast called Tiziano. He's actually Italian. He lives in Sydney and he does this thing called family constellations, which is a type of therapy. And he said that we have these family consciences where we honor certain people in our family by the actions that we do, whether consciously or unconsciously. So, for instance, I'm into fashion, right? I always have been. Now, you could say, well, that's just because I like it, but my mum's into fashion. So, unconsciously, I honor her unconsciously, it's not a thought. I'm also very spiritual, right? Now, this is something that I'm not just doing because I'm doing it because my dad does it. My dad's religious. We look at things differently, and it's been something that I actually rejected up until the last, like heavily up until the last few years. But interestingly enough, you know, as I've maybe healed my masculine a bit more, you know, I am very spiritual now. Some might say that is an was it like an ode, like a thing to your father, and it's interesting. Yeah, it's just a bit of a side thing there. I don't know where that came from, but I just thought it was interesting. You're obviously extremely passionate. Do you feel like there's some part of you that, you know, like is in a positive way, that's a drive unconsciously, if you were to psychoanalyze yourself right now, is there any part of your drive to do that, you know, relating to your dad at all, do you think? You probably never thought about that before.
Probably like deep down, yeah, there's always that, like, you want to make dad proud.
Every boy wants to make their dad proud.
Course,
do you know what I mean?
But it's ironic because I know he's already proud. Like, he's already very proud. Yeah. He's beyond proud. Like, he just can't stop bragging about me to other people. Like, when he first met my girlfriend, he's like, oh, my son, he's an incredible guy. Like, he's the only one in this track.
Because that's what I felt. I thought, this is what I was thinking. And more was, I thought this guy's dad loves him. I can tell.
Wow, that's awesome. Good analysis.
I could tell that your dad was proud of you and loved you because there's a certain solidness that happens in a man when his dad loves him and he knows it. When a man doesn't, or a boy, whichever, or a boy that is a man that is a boy, you can notice when he isn't loved or doesn't know that he's loved by his father because he's a lot more messy.
It's so
and is a lot more like and I've just spent a lot of time with men and a lot of time on podcasts and also just my own healing and me not having that. And then more recently, my healing with my dad, when I told him I was doing this podcast and he read the bio that I sent you, he cried. He told me he was proud of me first time in my entire life. And I didn't feel anything in the moment, but I have noticed in who I am as a man that has coincided with a new level of strength. If I was to just look at my last 6 or 12 months, it wasn't like I needed it, but something shifted. It was interesting. So I'm able to kind of like spot that in other people now.
Now that you mention that, Scott, like I'm looking at my friends and also like people that I know.
You probably wonder, why am I so not good, but why am I able to do all these things and certain other people aren't? Sometimes it can come from a place of like feeling solid that you love. Sometimes it can come from a place of trauma of like needing love. And so there we go out for, and either ways, they both, as we were saying off cam, when the batteries are out, both of those work to a certain point, but one lasts a marathon, one is a sprint, and then you burn out.
100%. Like you said before, you can do it for like, 4 or 5 years, and then you'll be smashed.
If you're running on fear rather than love, if we're going to be a little bit whatever.
No, that's correct. I fully believe that.
It's a much more consistent power source.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's definitely brought up some stuff. I think it's
completely sidetracked everything else. I just felt it. I thought I'm just going to say something because it just felt noticeable.
What should we say to men that are listening to this, do you think? Like,
if you don't have a good relationship with your dad, see if you can mend it, number one, because no matter the amount of supplements you take, you know, there's the mind, there's the body, and there's the spirit. And I think all men, there's a spiritual element tied to our fathers or masculinity. But for the sake of the podcast, I'll hand the mic back to you for a second. What is the kind of final note that you want to share to men about, or just anything, whatever's on your heart that you're really passionate about and you think will help men become great again? What's your like look into the camera moment and go, all right, guys?
So when it comes to productivity and output, let's say, for example, we're looking at, I don't know, like a plumber or a sparky or whatever. Let's look at a guy who's like, his level of income is determined by how much work he's able to get done.
His productivity. Yeah. And his focus. My job as a biohacker / naturopath
is to optimize your biology so that you have more energy. Right. So look at the sort of work that I'm doing is like This guy is basically a mechanic for your body. Like he's a human mechanic, basically. You go and take your car to get serviced by a mechanic. Do the same for your body. Honor your body. Respect the fact that your biology is going to dictate how much energy you have every day. It's also going to impact how well you're able to recover after work. And therefore, if you have more energy, you have better productivity, better output.
And better, and as we were saying off camera. So you guys missed out on the whole podcast off camera. But for me, decision making, because sometimes you can work really productively, but on the wrong thing because your brain's not functioning. You're working really hard. So I also think that just when you're functioning properly, you can make better decisions, and whether that be what fuel to put in your body, or whether that be a
good example of that
or
would
decisions
be
in business.
if you told me, Lucas, you can only eat McDonald's for a week.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen to my productivity? And like I'm going to become
common sense would say you'd be getting fuck all done.
If it did blood work before and after as well, like it'd be terrible. And also I could probably pretty quickly put myself into a state of like depressive symptoms from eating, like eat shit, feel shit.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Like what you put into your body determines how you function. If you want to function like a high-performing human being, eat healthy, like eat blueberries, steak, like a high nutrient-dense foods, not this shit like fast foods, McDonald's, things like that. It's just not going to do you favors.
Last question, and I know you got to go, but this is the one thing I forgot to ask you. Like there's people that are eating just steak and blueberries now. There's the vegan diet. There's the paleo. There's the Mediterranean. What in this fucking day and age? Like I've done every single one of them, and at the moment I'm more along the lines of just like whole food. That's what I call it, like a whole food. I eat fully organic, and it's just like whole food. So yeah, that's it. But what do you feel is the best way to go? And do people need to eat organic? What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I don't like to be like very dogmatic about nutrition.
This is the way.
Yeah, I'm not like that. Like I'm very grounded in my response. I think the number one thing is you eat that aligns with your goals and what you're trying to achieve. So like, for example,
and if you feel good, then it's working for you.
If you feel good plus your blood work reflects that you're actually good, like your biomarkers are in check and everything's all right, that's fine. I just think that there really is no one size fits all.
Everybody's body's different.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Dude, I feel like we could go on for hours, but we do have lives and things to do. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, not just from a knowledge, base, but just obviously you're such a friendly guy and just a joy to kind of have on as a guest. So I will get all of your links from you. We'll pop them under this stuff. I highly recommend going and checking out step one, his Instagram. Tons of epic free content on there. Follow him along. And then, of course, if you want to get more support, go and work with him. I'm almost thinking I might need to book a couple of sessions in just to get someone to look at my blood work. But yeah, dude, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much, man. It was awesome.
And this is the Make Men Great Again podcast. I'm Scott James Andrews, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks,
Bye for
guys.
now.
Take care, guys.
What an awesome episode. And if you want to watch more, just click the button here or here. Watch the next one, and we'll see you soon.